The human laughed, the enemy screamed, and that was only the first 5 minutes. Part 1. Lieutenant Kate Summers straightened her uniform one last time before entering the meeting room. This was humanity's first official contact with an alien species, and she wanted to look her best. As the Earth's top linguistic expert, her job was to help Captain Alan Miller communicate with the Reckons. "Ready, Lieutenant?" Captain Miller asked. His voice was calm, but Kate could see the tension in his shoulders. "As ready as I'll ever be, sir," she replied with a small smile. The meeting room on the space station Unity was designed to accommodate both human and alien biology. One half had standard chairs and tables, while the other featured strange platforms covered in a gel-like substance that the Reckons had requested. The air smelled slightly of cinnamon, another Reckon requirement that Earth scientists couldn't explain. Captain Miller took his seat at the center of the human delegation. Kate sat to his right, with 5 other officers representing Earth's United Space Command completing their side of the table. The empty platforms across from them seemed eerie in the silence. "They're late," whispered Commander Ryan Patel, the security officer. As if on cue, the door on the far side of the room slid open with a soft hiss. The humans collectively held their breath as the Reckons entered. Kate had seen pictures and videos, but nothing prepared her for the reality of the aliens. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with segmented exoskeletons that shimmered with an iridescent blue-green color. Their forearms moved with unsettling grace, and their faces featured compound eyes that reflected the room in thousands of tiny mirrors. Most disturbing were their mandibles, which clicked and clacked as they communicated among themselves. The largest Reckon, wearing elaborate gold markings on its exoskeleton, climbed onto the central platform. This was High Commander Zaktitiki, the leader of the Reckon delegation. 4 others took positions on the remaining platforms. "Welcome to Unity Station," Captain Miller said, standing and offering a small bow. "We hope this meeting marks the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples." Kate activated the translation device, a small silver disc on the table. The Reckons had provided part of the technology, while Earth scientists had contributed the rest. Both sides had spent months exchanging language data to make this moment possible. The High Commander's mandibles moved rapidly, producing a series of clicks and whistles. The translator worked silently for a moment, then a flat, mechanical voice emerged from the device. "Humans of Dirt World, we come with generous proposal of your continued existence." Kate frowned. Something about the translation seemed off. The Reckons had never shown aggression before. She made a small adjustment to the device. The High Commander continued speaking, its body now more rigid, its upper arms raised in what appeared to be a formal posture. The translator converted the sounds into English. "Your species is small and weak like the squeaking food animals. We find your planet suitable for Reckon expansion needs. We offer you choice of surrender with honor. You may keep small territory in cold regions. All other lands become Reckon breeding zones." Captain Miller's face hardened. "I believe there must be a misunderstanding. We invited the Reckon people here to discuss trade and cultural exchange, not territorial demands." The High Commander's eyes seemed to flash as it responded. The translator spoke again. "No misunderstanding. Reckon Empire grows, needs new worlds. Your choice simple. Accept our generous terms, or we will make humans extinct, like the silly dinosaur creatures who could not stop the Skyrock." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Commander Patel's hand moved subtly toward his sidearm. Captain Miller raised a hand slightly, signaling him to stay calm. Kate studied the translation matrix on her tablet. There was definitely something wrong with the cultural context subroutines. She tried another adjustment. The High Commander raised all 4 arms now, its voice reaching a higher pitch. The translator rendered this as, "Your human warriors are weak like baby water ducks. When our mighty space fleet arrives, you will cry many tears from your strange round eyes. Your weapons will be as useful as chocolate spoons and hot coffee." Kate couldn't help it. The combination of the serious alien posture and the ridiculous translated threats triggered something inside her. A small giggle escaped her lips, She quickly tried to cover it with a cough, but it was too late. The giggle turned into a snort, and then into full-blown laughter. The image of the imposing alien comparing human soldiers to baby water ducks and weapons to chocolate spoons was too absurd. "Lieutenant Summers," Captain Miller hissed, but he could see she was past the point of control. Kate's laughter rang through the chamber, a clear, bright sound that bounced off the walls. She tried to apologize between gasps for air, but each attempt only made her laugh harder. The effect on the Reckons was immediate and shocking. The High Commander recoiled as if struck, its body convulsing oddly. The other Reckons began making high-pitched keening sounds, their limbs twitching uncontrollably. "What's happening?" Captain Miller demanded, standing up as the Reckon delegation descended into what looked like mass panic. Kate finally managed to control her laughter. "I don't know, sir," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. I think my laughter is causing them pain." The High Commander was now on its side, mandibles opening and closing rapidly as it emitted a sound that needed no translation. It was screaming. Commander Patel moved to protect Captain Miller, while the other human officers watched in bewilderment. The Reckons were retreating, dragging their leader with them. Their organized formation had dissolved into chaos, all from a human laugh. "All personnel, stay calm," Captain Miller ordered, though his voice betrayed his confusion. "Let them leave. Lieutenant Summers, what just happened?" Kate was reviewing data on her tablet, her face now serious. "Sir, I think there's something about human laughter, the sound waves, the frequency, that affects Recon neurology. It appears to cause them actual physical distress." As the last Recon stumbled through the exit, Captain Miller stared at the empty platforms, then at Kate. "Lieutenant, are you telling me that humanity's first official contact with an alien species ended because you laughed at them?" Kate swallowed hard. "Yes, sir, it seems so. And they were threatening us with invasion?" The translation was poor, but yes, that was the gist of it. Captain Miller looked around at his stunned officers, then back to Kate. 5 minutes. We were in this room with them for 5 minutes before everything fell apart." "I'm sorry, sir," Kate said, feeling her career slipping away. To her surprise, Captain Miller's stern expression slowly changed. A small smile appeared on his face. "Lieutenant, if your laughter can cause that kind of reaction in a species threatening to invade Earth, I think you just discovered humanity's first alien defense system." Outside the chamber, the Recon ship was already preparing for emergency departure from Unity Station. The High Commander, still shaking, gave orders to return to the fleet immediately. The human sound weapon was more terrible than their intelligence had suggested. The invasion plans would need to be reconsidered. They would need defenses against this biological attack before they could conquer the dirt world. On Unity Station, humans were already sending urgent messages to Earth Command. The peaceful first contact had failed, but they had discovered something, perhaps more valuable. The Reckons had weaknesses. And one of those weaknesses was something uniquely human: laughter. The human laughed, the enemy screamed, and that was only the first 5 minutes. Part 2. 3 months after the disastrous first contact, Earth was preparing for war. The Recon fleet had retreated to the edge of the solar system, but Earth's long-range scanners showed they were gathering more ships. Everyone knew they would return, and next time they wouldn't come to talk. Dr. Greg Powell hunched over his computer in the underground laboratory beneath Denver. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, he had been tasked with understanding why human laughter had such a powerful effect on the Reckons. Dark circles under his eyes showed he hadn't slept much lately. "Dr. Powell, you need to see this," said his assistant, placing a cup of coffee next to him. Greg looked up at the screen showing new data from his experiments. He had been analyzing recordings of the first contact incident for weeks, breaking down every sound frequency in Lieutenant Kate Summers' laugh. "This is it," he whispered, pointing to a particular wavelength pattern. Recon neural patterns show disruption at exactly this frequency. Human laughter, especially spontaneous laughter, hits this range perfectly. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his messy brown hair. "It's not even harmful to them physically. Their neural systems just can't process these Sound patterns. It's like a temporary system overload. The phone on his desk rang. It was General Diane Foster, head of Earth's Defense Council. "Powell, please tell me you have something," she said without greeting. "The Recon fleet is moving. We have maybe 2 weeks before they reach Earth." "I do have something, General, but you're going to think I'm crazy." 2 days later, Lieutenant Kate Summers stood before the Defense Council in their Washington bunker. Since the first contact incident, she had been both celebrated and blamed. Some called her Earth's savior for discovering the Recon weakness. Others said her lack of diplomatic control had started an unnecessary war. "Lieutenant Summers," General Foster addressed her, "Dr. Powell has shared his findings with us. Based on his recommendation, we're forming a new division, psychological warfare, and we want you to be part of it." Kate looked surprised. "Ma'am, I'm a linguist, not a soldier." "What we need isn't traditional soldiers," said a new voice. Commander Olivia Wright walked into the room, her tall figure commanding attention. "We need people who understand how to use this new weapon effectively." Commander Wright clicked a button, and a screen showed images of various people, some military, some civilian. "We're recruiting individuals with particularly effective laughs," Wright explained. "Voice actors, comedians, and yes, even linguists who can't keep a straight face during diplomatic meetings." Kate blushed but held her ground. "With all due respect, Commander, you can't just tell people to laugh on command and expect it to work against the Recons. My laughter was spontaneous, genuine." "That's exactly why you're here, Lieutenant," Wright replied. "You're going to help us make sure the laughter is authentic. We need to create situations that generate real laughter, not forced sounds." The next week, Kate found herself at a secret training facility in Nevada. The place looked like a mix between a military base and a comedy club. One room had soldiers watching comedy shows while scientists measured their laughter patterns. Another had people practicing jokes and funny stories. "This is Private Chris Bennett," Commander Wright said, introducing Kate to a young man with a friendly face. "He has the most powerful laugh we've found so far." Chris gave a small wave. "Nice to meet you, Lieutenant. I hear you're the one who discovered our secret weapon." "Not intentionally," Kate admitted. "Show her, Private," Wright ordered. Chris nodded and closed his eyes for a moment. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, he let out a laugh that started deep in his belly and rose up like thunder. It was so infectious that Kate found herself laughing too, and soon several nearby personnel joined in. Wright checked a device in her hand. That registered at almost twice the disruption threshold for Recon neural patterns. And the best part is, it's completely genuine. Private Bennett here can find humor in almost anything. Over the next week, Kate worked closely with Chris and other members of what was now called the Laughter Squadron. They studied Recon psychology, trying to understand what might trigger human laughter when facing them in battle. "The key," Kate explained to the group, "is that the Recons have no concept of humor as we understand it. Their hive mind culture evolved without it. The very idea of finding something funny is alien to them." Chris nodded thoughtfully. "So when they see or hear us laughing, it's not just the sound that disturbs them. It's encountering something their minds can't process." "Exactly," Kate said. "It's like trying to explain color to someone who's been blind their whole life." On the other side of the base, traditional military preparations continued. Weapons were stockpiled, ships were readied, and troops trained for conventional warfare. But everyone knew these efforts might not be enough. Recon technology was more advanced than Earth's in many ways. Commander Wright received regular updates on the approaching fleet. "They've adapted their ships," she told Kate and the squadron during a briefing. "Our intelligence suggests they've installed sound-dampening technology. They're preparing for our laughter weapon." "Then we need to be louder," Chris suggested, with a grin. "Not just louder," Kate said, an idea forming. "We need to be unexpected, element of surprise." Captain Linda Garcia, who would command the USS Defender in the coming battle, looked skeptical. "You want to turn my battleship into a floating comedy club?" "Not exactly," Kate explained. "But we need to integrate the Laughter Squadron into your traditional forces. The Recons will be expecting us to use laughter as a weapon now. What they won't expect is how and when we use it." As the day of the Recon arrival grew closer, final preparations were made. The Laughter Squadron was assigned to various ships in Earth's defense fleet. Kate and Chris were placed aboard the USS Defender, Earth's flagship. The night before the Recon fleet would reach Earth orbit, Kate couldn't sleep. She stood at a viewport looking at the stars, wondering if humanity was about to face extinction. Chris found her there and stood quietly beside her for a moment. "Scared?" he asked finally. "Terrified," Kate admitted. "What if it doesn't work? What if they found a way to protect themselves against laughter completely?" Chris considered this. "Then we'll find something else. Humans are good at that. Adapting, finding unexpected solutions." He smiled. "Besides, have you seen Plan B? They're going to play laugh tracks from old sitcoms over the emergency broadcast system." Despite everything, Kate found herself smiling. "That's not really Plan B." "No, but it made you smile," Chris said. "And that's what we're fighting for, isn't it? A world where we can still laugh." In the morning, alarms blared throughout the key ship. Captain Garcia's voice came over the intercom. "Battle stations. The Recon fleet has entered Earth orbit. This is not a drill." Kate and Chris rushed to their positions in the newly established Psychological Operations Center. Through the ship's windows, they could see hundreds of Recon vessels, their strange, organic-looking shapes blotting out the stars. "All personnel ready for Operation Punchline," Commander Wright ordered over the comm. Kate took a deep breath and glanced at Chris, who gave her a thumbs up. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The human laughed, the enemy screamed, and that was only the first 5 minutes. Part 3. The USS Defender moved to intercept the Recon fleet near Jupiter's orbit. Captain Linda Garcia stood on the bridge, watching the enemy ships on the main screen. They were beautiful in a strange way, with their curved, shell-like hulls glowing with faint blue light. "They're hailing us," said the communications officer. Captain Garcia nodded. On screen, the image of High Commander ZKT-TK appeared. The Recon leader looked even more intimidating than before, with new gold and red markings on its exoskeleton. Its compound eyes seemed to glitter with anger. "Humans," the translation device rendered its clicks and whistles. "You have caused great offense to the Recon Empire. Surrender now, or be destroyed." Captain Garcia kept her face neutral. "We wish to avoid conflict, High Commander. Perhaps we can negotiate." "No negotiations," the Recon interrupted. "You used biological sound weapons against our delegation. This is forbidden by galactic law." In the Psychological Operations Center, Kate and Chris exchanged looks. They could hear the exchange through the ship's communication system. "That's rich," Chris whispered. "They were planning to invade us anyway." Kate nodded, then spoke into her comlink. "Captain, they're stalling. Our sensors show their ships are moving into attack formation." On the bridge, Captain Garcia received the message and made a quick decision. "High Commander, we regret any misunderstanding from our previous meeting," she said. "To show our good faith, we would like to share something from our culture." She gave a subtle hand signal to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Summers, you're on," Garcia said quietly. In the Psychological Operations Center, Kate took a deep breath and pressed a button. Beginning Operation Punchline. The transmission to the Recon ship changed. Instead of Captain Garcia, they now saw a recording of Earth's top comedian, Sam Wilson, performing his most famous routine about first contact with aliens. The routine had been carefully selected and edited for maximum impact. "What do you call an alien with 3 eyes?" Sam asked in the recording. "Good looking." The punchline was followed by Chris Bennett's booming laugh, carefully recorded and amplified. The sound was directed specifically at the Recon command frequencies. On the main view screen, High Commander ZKT-TK visibly recoiled. Its mandibles clicked rapidly in what humans now recognized as distress. "Cut transmission!" It screamed, but it was too late. The human ships had broadcasted the comedy routine to all Recon vessels simultaneously. The effect was immediate. The perfectly organized Recon formation began to break apart as ship captains lost focus. Their neural systems disrupted by the sound of human laughter. "It's working," Chris exclaimed, watching the enemy ship's movements on his monitor. Kate nodded, but she looked concerned. "They're adapting faster than we expected. Look." She pointed to readings showing the reckoned ships adjusting their communication, frequencies and activating sound-dampening shields. "Phase 2, Commander Wright ordered from her station. Chris moved to a different console and activated a new program. This time, instead of broadcasting sound, the human ships projected giant holograms between the fleets. Enormous images of humans laughing, their faces contorted in expressions of joy. "The visual component should work even if they block the sound," Kate explained to Captain Garcia through the comm. "Dr. Powell's research shows they're affected by seeing laughter almost as much as hearing it." On the bridge, Captain Garcia watched as the reckoned ships closest to the holograms began to move erratically. "They're breaking formation," reported the tactical officer. "Their firing solutions will be compromised." "Good," Garcia said. "Prepare conventional weapons. Target their engines and weapon systems only." The battle unfolded unlike any in human history. The USS Defender and its sister ships fired conventional weapons at the disoriented Recon vessels, while continuing to broadcast comedy and laughter. Each time the Recons adapted to one form of laughter attack, the humans changed tactics. In the Psychological Operations Center, Kate worked frantically to stay ahead of the Recon defenses. She noticed that some enemy ships seemed less affected than others. "They're learning," she told Chris. "We need something stronger." Chris thought for a moment, then grinned. "I have an idea." He grabbed a microphone and connected it to the ship's main broadcast system. "Permission to go off script, Lieutenant?" Kate hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." Chris began telling jokes, not the carefully prepared ones they had rehearsed, but impromptu ones about the battle itself. "Did you hear about the Recon ship captain who installed sound-dampening shields?" Chris said into the microphone. "He couldn't hear the orders to retreat." His natural booming laugh followed, and to Kate's surprise, several crew members in their center started laughing too. The genuine, spontaneous nature of their laughter created sound patterns that the Recons couldn't predict or defend against. On the main view screen, they could see the effect rippling through the enemy fleet. Ships began to collide with each other as their pilots lost control. "It's working," Commander Wright exclaimed. "Keep going." For the next hour, the battle continued in this unusual fashion. The human fleet took damage. The Recons still had superior technology, and some ships remained functional despite the psychological attacks. But the aliens couldn't coordinate effectively, giving Earth's forces the edge they needed. Finally, the Recon flagship, a massive vessel twice the size of the USS Defender, moved to the front of their formation. "They're preparing for something big," Captain Garcia warned. On the view screen, High Commander Zekati Decay appeared again. Its image flickered as the Recons struggled to maintain stable communications. "Enough," the translation device rendered its angry clicks. "You have violated all rules of warfare with your mind attacks." Kate noticed something strange. The High Commander was wearing some kind of device over its sensory organs, protection against their laughter weapons. "They've developed countermeasures," she told Captain Garcia urgently. On screen, the High Commander continued, "We will not be defeated by your primitive psychological tricks. Our mighty Recon Empire has conquered species across 12 star systems. You are nothing." To everyone's surprise, Captain Garcia smiled. "High Commander, you misunderstand us. We don't want to conquer, we don't want to fight, we just want to live in peace." "Peace is submission," the Recon leader clicked. "No," Garcia replied calmly. "Peace is understanding, and I think you're beginning to understand us better than you'd like to admit." She nodded to Kate, who activated their final strategy. On every display in the Recon fleet, images appeared showing humans throughout history, laughing together, helping each other, celebrating, mourning, fighting, and making peace. "We are not like you," Garcia continued. "We don't have a hive mind. We're individuals. And that means we see the world in ways you can't imagine. Sometimes that includes finding joy in the absurd. We call it humor." The High Commander seemed to study the images with its compound eyes. For a moment there was silence. Then, to everyone's shock, it made a sound. Not quite human laughter, but something similar. A kind of clicking that rippled through its mandibles. "Perhaps," it said slowly, "there is something to learn from your species after all." The Wrecken flagship powered down its weapons. One by one, the other ships followed suit. In the Psychological Operations Center, Kate and Chris looked at each other in disbelief. "Did we just win a galactic war with jokes?" Chris asked. Kate smiled. "I think we did something better. I think we just made first contact. For real this time." On the bridge, Captain Garcia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The battle was over, at least for now. But the strangest chapter in human history was just beginning. The human laughed, the enemy screamed, and that was only the first 5 minutes. Part 4. 6 months passed since the battle near Jupiter. The victory had been celebrated across Earth, but military leaders knew it was only temporary. Intelligence reports showed the Wreckens retreating to their nearest colony to regroup and adapt. Admiral Paul Jackson stood at the head of the conference table in Lunar Command, looking at the grim faces around him. Captain Linda Garcia was there, along with Commander Olivia Wright, Lieutenant Kate Summers, and now Sergeant Chris Bennett, who had been promoted after his quick thinking during the battle. "They're coming back," Admiral Jackson said simply. "And our intel suggests they've found ways to defend against our laughter attacks." He gestured to Dr. Greg Powell, who pulled up a holographic display showing a new type of Wrecken armor. "These are neural dampening helmets," Dr. Powell explained. "They filter out the specific frequencies of human laughter that cause disruption to their nervous systems. Our previous tactics won't work anymore." The room fell silent. Their one advantage seemed to be gone. "So we're back to conventional warfare?" Captain Garcia asked. "Because I have to tell you, Admiral, their technology still outmatches ours?" Admiral Jackson shook his head. "Not necessarily. Dr. Powell has continued his research. Greg, tell them what you found." Dr. Powell adjusted his glasses and pulled up new data on the display. "While the Wreckens have developed protection against the auditory components of human laughter, my research shows they remain vulnerable to the visual elements." "Visual elements?" Kate asked, leaning forward. "Yes," Powell nodded. "The sight of humans laughing, the facial expressions, the body language, triggers a similar neurological disruption in the aliens. In fact, my latest tests suggest the visual component may have an even stronger effect than the sound alone." Sergeant Chris Bennett whistled. "So we need to get up close and personal, let them see us laughing." "Exactly," Powell confirmed. "But that means closer combat than before, more risk." Admiral Jackson looked around the table. "I need recommendations, people. How do we use this information?" Commander Wright spoke up first. "We form specialized strike teams, small, agile units that can board Wrecken vessels and deploy visual laughter attacks directly." "Boarding actions?" Captain Garcia sounded skeptical. "That's extremely high risk." "High risk, high reward," Wright countered. "A small team could disable a Wrecken ship from the inside much more effectively than external attacks." Kate had been quiet, thinking. Now she looked up. "What about transmission devices? Could we create small drones that project holographic images of laughing humans inside their ships?" Dr. Powell considered this. "Possible, but the Wreckens might have countermeasures for remote technology. Nothing beats the real thing. Actual humans laughing in real time would have the strongest effect." Sergeant Bennett grinned. "Well, I volunteer. Getting aliens to freak out when I laugh is apparently my special talent." Admiral Jackson studied the tactical display showing the approaching Wrecken fleet. "We have 3 weeks before they arrive. Commander Wright, form your strike teams. Lieutenant Summers, work with Dr. Powell on enhancing the visual impact of our laughter attacks. Captain Garcia, prepare the fleet." As they left the meeting, Kate caught up with Chris in the hallway. "Arthur, you really volunteering for a boarding mission?" she asked. "That's practically suicide." Chris shrugged. "If it helps protect Earth, it's worth the risk." Besides, making aliens run screaming when I laugh is way more interesting than my original career plan of accounting. Kate couldn't help smiling. You're crazy, you know that? Crazy enough to make a difference, he replied. What about you? Coming along on this adventure? Kate hesitated. As a linguist, she wasn't trained for combat missions, but she understood the Reckons better than most. Someone needs to help you tell the right jokes, she said finally. The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparation. Special teams were formed, combining combat specialists with people who had particularly expressive laughs. They trained in mock-ups of Reckon ships, practicing how to move quickly through the alien corridors and deploy their unusual weapons. Chris and Kate were assigned to Alpha Team under the direct command of Olivia Wright. The team included 6 other members, each chosen for both combat skills and exceptional expressiveness. They developed new techniques, special jokes that would trigger genuine laughter even in tense situations, breathing exercises to help them laugh on command, and facial exercises to maximize the visual impact of their expressions. Dr. Powell also created special equipment for them, lightweight masks that would amplify their facial expressions, making their smiles and laughter even more visible and disturbing to Reckon perception. Think of these as the opposite of poker faces, he explained as the team tried them on. They enhance the muscles around your eyes and mouth, making your expressions more intense. The day before the Reckon fleet was due to arrive, a strange message came through. The Reckons were requesting to speak with Lieutenant Kate Summers specifically. Me? Kate was surprised. Why would they ask for me? Admiral Jackson looked equally puzzled. Unknown, but this could be an opportunity. Captain Garcia will accompany you, along with a security team. The meeting was set up in neutral space, a small station orbiting Earth's moon. Kate arrived with Captain Garcia and 4 armed guards. She felt nervous but tried not to show it. The Reckon delegation consisted of 3 members. To everyone's surprise, High Commander Zakati TK itself was one of them. The aliens wore their new neural dampening helmets but otherwise seemed unarmed. Lieutenant Kate Summers, the High Commander's translator device, rendered its clicks. You are the one who first used the mind attack against us. Kate stood straight. It wasn't an attack. It was just laughter, a natural human response. The High Commander's compound eyes studied her. We have analyzed this. Laughter. We do not understand it, but we have learned to fear it. Captain Garcia stepped forward. If you fear us, why return with another fleet? The Vrekan Empire does not retreat, the High Commander replied. But we can adapt. We believe we have found a solution that does not require war. Kate and Garcia exchanged surprised glances. What solution? Kate asked. The High Commander removed something from a pouch at its side, a small device with buttons that looked sized for Reckon fingers. We have created this, it explained. It filters what we see when humans laugh. It does not block completely, but reduces the neural disruption to manageable levels. Dr. Powell, who was monitoring the conversation from the Earth base, spoke through Kate's earpiece. They're talking about perceptual filters like sunglasses for their neural systems. So you don't need to attack us anymore? Kate asked hopefully. The High Commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. The Vrekan Empire still requires expansion, but perhaps Earth can remain independent if certain agreements are reached. What kind of agreements? Captain Garcia asked cautiously. Cultural exchange, the High Commander said. We wish to study this laughter phenomenon further. It is unique among all species we have encountered. Kate couldn't believe what she was hearing. You want to study human laughter? After what it did to you? What does not kill us makes us stronger, the High Commander replied, surprising them by using a human phrase. And your laughter did not kill, it merely confused. This is interesting to us. As the meeting continued, Kate realized something profound was happening. The Reckons, a species built on hive mind certainty, had encountered something they couldn't immediately understand or conquer, and rather than just fighting harder, they were trying to understand it. When Kate returned to Earth, she brought news of a potential truce. Not peace exactly, but a stepping back from the brink of war. They want to send scientists to study human laughter, she explained to Admiral Jackson and the others. In exchange, they'll redirect their fleet to an uninhabited system for colonization. Can we trust them? Admiral Jackson asked. I don't. No, Kate admitted. But they're afraid enough of our laughter to negotiate rather than fight. That's something. Sergeant Chris Bennett grinned. So our secret weapon might lead to peace instead of war? That's pretty funny when you think about it. And despite the tension of the situation, several people in the room started to laugh. The human laughed, the enemy screamed, and that was only the first 5 minutes. Part 5. The truce with the Reckons lasted 2 months before it shattered. Earth received an urgent message from the Recon diplomatic vessel. The Hive Queen herself had overruled High Commander ZKTTK's decision. She was coming to Earth with the largest fleet ever assembled by the Recon Empire. We tried, Kate said, standing in Admiral Jackson's office with Chris and Captain Garcia. But their empire isn't used to compromise. Admiral Jackson nodded, grimly. According to our intelligence, the Hive Queen rarely leaves her homeworld. The fact that she's coming herself shows how seriously they're taking the human threat. Or the human opportunity, Chris suggested. Maybe she's just curious. About laughter. Curious enough to bring 10,000 warships? Captain Garcia asked dryly. Admiral Jackson activated a holographic display showing Earth's defenses. We've prepared as best we can. Our ships are equipped with the new visual laughter projectors, and we have strike teams ready for boarding actions. But, will it be enough? Kate wondered aloud. No one answered. They all knew the odds were against them. 3 days later, the Recon fleet arrived in Earth's orbit. It was an awesome sight. Thousands of ships filling the sky, their biomechanical designs making them look like a swarm of giant insects. The Hive Queen's vessel dwarfed all others. Nearly a mile long, its shape reminded Kate of a massive praying mantis with curved sections that could be folded in for faster-than-light travel. All defense forces on high alert, Admiral Jackson ordered from Lunar Command, but hold fire unless fired upon. To everyone's surprise, the Recon fleet did not immediately attack. Instead, the Hive Queen sent a message. Humans of Earth, the translation began. I am XRLPKT, Queen of the Recon Empire, Conqueror of 12 systems, Mother of 10 billion. I have come to see this laughter that troubles my warriors. Admiral Jackson glanced at Kate. She wants a demonstration? Kate frowned. It feels like a trap. Maybe, the Admiral agreed. But also maybe our only chance to avoid all-out war. After hasty discussions, Earth agreed to send a single ship to meet the Hive Queen's vessel. The USS Defender would carry a small delegation, Captain Garcia, Commander Wright, Lieutenant Summers, and Sergeant Bennett. Why me? Chris asked as they prepared to board the shuttle. Because you have the most powerful laugh we've ever measured, Commander Wright replied, simply. As they approached the massive Recon flagship, Kate felt a mix of fear and awe. The alien vessel was beautiful in its complex organic design. Glowing patterns ran along its hull, pulsing like a heartbeat. They docked at a specially designed airlock that could accommodate both species. A group of Recon guards met them, all wearing the new neural dampening helmets. We will escort you to the Queen, one guard clicked through its translator. Do not use your sound weapons or you will be eliminated. Captain Garcia nodded. We understand. We come in peace. The corridors of the Recon ship were unlike anything the humans had seen before. The walls seemed almost alive with subtle movements and color shifts. The air had a sweet, spicy smell that made Kate's nose tingle. Finally, they reached a massive chamber that could only be the throne room. And there, sitting on a raised platform, was the Hive Queen. She was enormous, at least 12 feet tall, with an exoskeleton that shimmered with all colors of the rainbow. Unlike other Recons, she had wing-like structures folded against her back, and her compound eyes were the size of dinner plates. Approach, her voice came through the translator, deeper and more resonant than other Recons. Captain Garcia led the team forward, stopping at a respectful distance. Hive Queen Exeral PKT, we thank you for this opportunity to meet. We hope to find a peaceful solution to our differences. The Queen's massive head tilted slightly. Peace is not my concern. Understanding is. I wish to know this power you possess, this laughter that causes my warriors such distress. Her compound eyes focused on Kate. You were the first to use. It'd show me. Kate swallowed nervously. I cannot laugh on command, Your Majesty. Laughter comes from finding something funny or joyful. Then make something funny, the Queen ordered. Chris stepped forward. With your permission, I could try to explain humor to you. The Queen's attention shifted to him. Proceed. Chris took a deep breath. Humor often comes from unexpected connections or outcomes. For example, he thought for a moment. Why did the Reckon cross the galaxy? The Queen's mandibles clicked in confusion. I do not understand the question. To get to the other tide. Chris finished with a grin. Kate winced. It was a terrible joke, a play on the old chicken crossing the road joke with tide instead of side, because Reckons evolved from ocean-dwelling creatures. It wasn't even very accurate. But to her amazement, Captain Garcia let out a small snort of laughter, not at the joke itself, but at how bad it was and the sheer absurdity of telling it to the ruler of a massive alien empire. Commander Wright followed with a chuckle, and soon Kate found herself laughing too. The pure ridiculousness of their situation, facing the most powerful Reckon in existence with nothing but bad jokes, struck her as hilarious. As they laughed, the guards around, the room began to show signs of distress despite their protective helmets. They moved restlessly, their mandibles clicking rapidly. The Queen herself remained still, her massive compound eyes reflecting the laughing humans like hundreds of tiny mirrors. Then, slowly, she rose from her throne. Enough, she commanded. The humans managed to control their laughter, though Chris still wore a broad smile. The Queen stepped down from her platform, her enormous form towering over them. The guards moved to protect her, but she waved them back with one massive arm. I have ruled the Reckon Empire for 200 of your years, she said. In that time I have conquered many species, faced many weapons, but never have I encountered anything like this. She leaned down, her face coming close to the humans. They could see every facet of her compound eyes, every ridge of her exoskeleton. This laughter, she continued, it is not a weapon, is it? It is part of you. Natural. Like breathing. Kate nodded. Yes. It's how we express joy, how we connect with each other, how we deal with the absurd parts of life. The Queen was silent, for a long moment. Then she straightened to her full height. The Reckon Empire has never retreated, she announced, but neither have we encountered a species so incomprehensible to us. You find joy in randomness. You laugh in the face of danger. Your minds work in ways ours cannot follow. She turned to her guards. Bring the document. A guard approached with what looked like a tablet made of some crystalline material. This is a treaty of non-interference, the Queen explained. It states that the Reckon Empire will not attempt to conquer Earth, and in return, humans will not use their laughter as a weapon against us. Captain Garcia looked surprised. You're offering peace? I am offering distance, the Queen corrected. And study. We will observe your species from afar. Perhaps in time, we will understand this laughter. As the humans prepared to return to their ship with the treaty, the Queen spoke once more. Lieutenant Kate Summers, she said, your laugh may have saved your world. Remember that. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted when the treaty was announced. The Reckon fleet departed, leaving only a few research vessels in distant orbit to observe human civilization. Kate, Chris, Garcia, and Wright were hailed as heroes. They had faced the most powerful alien empire known to humanity and won, not through superior firepower, but through something uniquely human. 6 months later, Kate stood at a window in the new Interspecies Communication Center. watching a reckoned scientist attempting to understand a human comedy show. Any progress? Chris asked, joining her. Kate smiled. Some. They still don't laugh, but they're beginning to recognize patterns in what humans find funny. Chris shook, his head in wonder. All this because you couldn't keep a straight face in a meeting. Life is full of strange turns, Kate agreed. One minute you're a linguist trying to communicate with aliens, the next you're using laughter to save the world. Chris grinned. Know what the reckons call our department now? The terrifying sound makers. Kate couldn't help it. She burst out laughing. Across the room, the reckoned scientist turned toward the sound, its compound eyes reflecting her joy in 100 tiny mirrors. In that moment, through the universal language of expression, perhaps it understood a little better what it meant to be human. The end,